Hello, Marshables. Let's see if we can get a fast lesson in here. This is level 7 order of operations and the Mr. Marsh version, which is the Tower of Math. So get your pencil, paper, calculator ready to go when you're thinking you should be writing because the pencil is the tool of the mind. When I ask you to stop the video and do some computations, please do that so that you can be stronger in the end. If you just watch me do it, I'm not sure that you're going to be any stronger afterwards, but let's see how fast I can get through this video. All right, so order of operations. So I start the class with this statement here. David gave, oh, let me share my screen with you. Sorry. Don't rush, Mr. Marsh. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. All right, here we go. David gave Steve his watch. Whose watch is it? I asked this in class and kids always argue. Which person does the word his refer back to? If I understand my English grammar right, which is not the best, but anyway, I think if you have a pronoun, it always refers back to the most previous personal noun or proper noun. So I think the word his there refers back to Steve, but it's confusing. English is not the best language for grammar. Latin is. If you have the chance to take Latin, please do so. Latin is parsed, which means it's got endings on the words to tell you how the word is used in the sentence. So even if you rearrange the order of the words, the sentence still means the same thing. So how about the next one? Let's eat grandma or let's eat grandma. Well, the first one says you're inviting your grandmother to a meal. Come, grandmother, let's eat. It's time for us to eat together. The second one actually offers that you eat grandma like as a cannibal. Let's eat grandma. In other words, grandma is the object that you're eating, which is horrible. What's the difference in the sentences? That little itty bitty comma right there. So details are important in language, but then also in mathematics. So here's the opening question then. 2 plus 5 times 4 minus 9 divided by 3 plus 6 squared. Stop the video and use your pencil. Copy that down. See if you can get an answer. Go. Okay, you're back. What did you get? When I do this in class, I get like all different kinds of answers. Most people want to just move from left to right through the thing. And they say, oh, 2 plus 5, that's 7. And then times 4, that's going to be 28. And then it's 28 minus 9, and so forth and so on. And that's totally wrong. In mathematics, there is an order of operations. Operations would be add, subtract, multiply, divide, an exponent, and a root, and stuff like that. Order means what order do you do them in? And maybe you know of this from an earlier math class, but people oftentimes say, oh, that's PEMDAS. P-E-M-D-A-S. And that's okay. These are all the first letters in the words of the order. So the first P there, I mean, that stands for parentheses. You do the parentheses first, and then you do the exponents, and then you multiply, and then you divide, and then you add, and then you subtract. And so what you're doing then is you're kind of going down the list right there. I got a better way, and I think it's a little more efficient. It's a little more pictorial. So what I've done is I've organized order of operations into a tower of math. Here's a tower. It's a 3-level building built on the ground. There's no basement. That shows up in a later use for it. But the first level is the most basic of the mathematical operations. What's the most basic thing you can do with numbers? Well, you can add them. Adding is when you take two different groups together and you put them together and now you have a total. The total is the result. What's the inverse of that? Well, then that would be subtraction. Subtraction is the inverse of addition, or the reverse if you want to call it that. It's when you have the group, when you pull a part away from it and you have a part left over. Okay, so the first two rooms on the ground level are addition and subtraction. But if you repeatedly add the same number, like 2 plus 2 plus 2, well, that's 3 2s. What is that? Well, that's 6. If you repeatedly add the same number together, that's a higher level of addition. Call that multiplication. Multiplication is a more complicated version of addition. It's adding the same number over and over and over again. And so what's the inverse of multiplication? That would be division. So if multiplication is repeated addition, doesn't that mean that division is repeated subtraction? Yes. when you divide, you're repeatedly subtracting out from the total the same number. Like if somebody came in your classroom with a box full of cookies and says, hey, we're going to divide up the cookies evenly, that's key, among all the students. The question would be, how many cookies can each person take out of there so that each person gets the maximum before you run out? And, maybe you won't have any remainders, but you might have some leftovers and stuff like that. Now, the next level up, what do you do when you repeatedly multiply? That would be an exponent. I'm going to call it E because there's no symbol. That would be something like 3 squared. What's that? That's 9. It's not 3 times 2. It means repeatedly multiply the 3. 3 times 3. That's 9. Okay? How many 3's do you have? 2 of them that you multiply together. That's what the exponent tells you. The exponent tells you how many 3's. And the inverse of that, if you're going to go backwards, would be a root. Now, it doesn't have to be a square root. It could be a cube root or a fourth root or whatever. It undoes the exponent. So to go backwards, you would say, oh, the square root of 9, well, that's equal to 3. That goes backwards. Okay. And then last but not least, at the top, I'm going to put parentheses at the top of the tower. Like maybe a little garden at the top. Like, at the very top, you got like a little garden with trees and stuff like that. We gotta wait for the clock. Patience, Marsh. It's running a little slow. I need to wind it up a little bit more. Let's see what time it is. It's 8 o'clock. How are you doing? Okay, so to do the order of operations with the Tower of Math, you work your way down the tower, the more complicated to the less complicated. So you have to do the parentheses first. Anything in parentheses that can be simplified, you do them first. Then after that, you do exponents and roots. It doesn't matter what order you do these in, although you would probably want to do exponents first and then roots to make the numbers big before you make them small. Then after exponents and roots, you can then do any multiplication and any division. Doesn't matter. You don't have to do multiply first. You can do division first. You might wind up with fractions. But if you do multiplication first and then division, usually that's best because then you avoid fractions if, there are any. And then addition and subtraction. So these can be done at different levels, whereas the order of operations says you have to do them one at a time and like in a line. That's actually not true. Like parentheses first and then exponents. Where's the roots? There's no R in PEMDAS. And then multiply, divide, and then add, subtract. So moving forward, you need to have the root in there as well. So let's go back to the first question. I've reproduced it here. And let's just go through. What do I do first? Well, the first thing I have to do is the exponent, which means I have to come all the way over to the very end. Like that's there on purpose. You have to like walk over all that stuff. Oh, your exponent's on the very far side, not at the beginning. So you start on the right-hand side, not the left-hand side. You have to do 6 squared first. And use your pencil and just copy down. Do one level at a time. I'm just going to copy down. 2 plus 5 times 4 minus 9. Can't do any of this yet. Divided by 3. And then plus, what's 6 squared? That's 36. Hopefully you don't need a calculator for that. Okay. Now what? Now I need to go do the multiply and the divide. And parentheses might help. I got in the habit when I was younger, and sometimes even now, of putting parentheses around the things that I'm going to do next. I have to do that multiplication there between the 5 and the 4 before I can do the addition. It's not 2 plus 5, which is 7, then times 4. It's 5 times 4, and then whatever that is, then you add the 2 to it. I also have a division right here, and so let me do the division also. So the next line down, I'm going to copy down the 2 because I can't use it yet. Plus 5 times 4, that's 20. Minus 9 divided by 3, that's 3. And then plus 36. And now at this point, all I have left is addition and subtraction. You can go all the way, one at a time, 2 plus 20 minus 3, and then plus 36. Oftentimes it's my habit, though, to collect all the positives and negatives together and then do one final subtraction. So 2 plus 20 plus 36, 22 plus 36, that's 58. And then minus 3. The final answer is 55. Which usually when I do this in class, that's not what most people get at the very beginning. But yeah, that is the order of operations. Let me do one more. There's some practice ones in here. I want to get down to this one here. Do this one. Stop the video, give your hand at that one, and then this will be the last question. Okay, are we back? Here we go. I'm looking through here. 2 and then parenthesis 3. This means multiply right here. It might help maybe even to put a little dot right in there. But I have to do the exponent first. So the number one thing I have to do is this squared. It's 3 squared. It's not 2 times 3, which is 6, and then squared. That's out of order. I have to square the 3 first. Subtraction and addition happen last, but then there's a multiply right in there too. So I'm going to do this 3 squared, but at the same time I can also maybe kind of do this one because it doesn't interfere with the exponent. So this becomes 2 times 3 squared, which is 9, minus what I get when I do 4 times 5, which is 20, then plus 6. I have to do the multiplication there next. So 2 times 9, that would be 18, and then minus 20. Plus 6, and again in my habit I collect like signs at the last step. 18 plus 6, that's 24, then minus 20. See how I never had to deal with a negative number when I did it that way? And so my final answer then would be 4. Okay? Tower of Math. You're not going to get it from anybody else because I invented it. And if I were to write a book about it, it would maybe just be a single page, and who would buy that? But you get it. So I hope you have a good day. Hope you learned something. Ta-ta for now.